Welcome. My name is Starfury, founder of EndRacismForever.org. Tonight is our part 3 long discussion, or 4-month discussion on our ERF virtual open discussion, where we talk about the racism and discrimination and every other ism, and what we are trying to do to get it out of our lives and to move to a better future. I want to have a great guest panel tonight. We got some brothers tonight, and some people may jump on. So we just want to get started on our discussion for this evening. And again, today is January the 27th, and so let's begin. So in our previous discussion, we talked about racism and PTSD. We discussed about inequality. We even talked about the capital. But tonight we want to switch it up a little bit. We want to go dig deeper. So our topic tonight is why people do not want racism to end. Why people do not want racism to end. This is going to be a two-part discussion. So we're going to talk about the first part is we're going to take some time to discuss about the issue at hand, and then the second part we're going to talk about solutions. And as usual, I invite our guests to. This is, I'm just a facilitator. This is your forum. This is your free space, as you will. So as I discuss about the topic, it's up to you to come in and give your input and hear each other, because this is what it's about. So right now, again, normally I would read, from a pamphlet and tell you the breakdown. So but this time I want it to be more interactive. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to look at these couple of things and answer some questions and then discuss. So with this question on why people do not want racism to end, we got to look at the overall factors in this, but we're going to concentrate on one factor I'm going to reveal in a minute. But let's look at the overall factors. As we know, right now in society in 2021, America is divided. Actually, if you really think about it, the entire world is divided. I mean, we've been locked down on this pandemic for a year. I think it was either yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday. We celebrated, not we, but we remembered Kobe Bryant, famous basketball player that got killed a year ago yesterday. So that kind of put it in perspective of where we are in this space. So we know racism and discrimination, all these things, isms, stem from a type of one group of entity of people pushing on another group entity on people. It doesn't matter if it's black, it doesn't matter if it's white, it doesn't matter what it is. Someone will always find a way to institute their will on others. Okay, so we agreed it doesn't matter what it is. We know that there's always something out there depending on who you are. So we know there's racism in the black community. We know there's racism, it's everywhere. So what I want to do is talk about one factor, the main factor, which is fear. A long time ago, when I first met my wife, it was about 10 years ago, and our very first topic about race as a couple, it was a heated discussion. And, I was, young guy, I was like, hey, white people are, and this is this, and she was like, you're looking at it, okay, you're looking at it from an emotional standpoint. Now look at it from the most logical standpoint ever. Why do you think racism exists? And I was like, yeah, because white people hate us and these people hate us. And she said, yeah. The reason is fear. Because she said, think about it for a minute. If you had something and you had it for all your life, one thing, she said, think about one thing you had all your life. And then all of a sudden, you're in a realm of losing that one thing that you possess above all. Won't you have fear? And I'm like, yeah. So she said, now think about that in a massive, meaning a massive, look at it from the macro point of view, look down, and you have millions of people, millions who have been brought up and been taught this certain way. And all of a sudden, here comes along and you're saying, we're going to take that away from you and we're going to make everything equal. And I was like, She said, now, when you go back and somebody do something to you or was prejudiced against you or discriminate against you, think about that word fear. So let's look at that word right now. I'm going to share my screen with you. Definition. Fear. The word fear is a noun. A distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc. Whether the threat is real or imagined, the feeling or condition of being afraid. That's the first definition. 2, a specific instance of a propensity of such a feeling. And then we go into the verb used with an object: to regard with fear, be afraid of, to have reverential awe of, and verb to have fear, be afraid, and to feel apprehensive or uneasy, usually followed by for. So as we deal with this particular word, I want you to imagine for a minute the time, if you bear with me, when the very first time in your life, and you don't have to say it now, I'll give you some time to say it, that you were first discriminated against. Keep that, if you can remember that memory, it doesn't matter how old you were, it could be older, but the first time you were aware of discrimination, when someone first discriminated against you, hold that memory, because we're going to talk about it. But before we do, I want to show you something real quick. I found this, if you could see it, I don't know if you could see it in this together. Can y'all see it? Yeah, okay. So the drivers of racism, found this article by Bill Shireman, which was published back in 2020, during the pandemic. And he says, are we in this together? 4 drivers of racism and the one that drives them all. So I'm gonna just read a little bit. I'm not gonna read all of it, but I'm gonna read this one part which brings it home. A core driver of racism is a political business model that profits from fear. Fear grabs our attention, locks our eyes on those we can hate, and immerse us in images that sell ads and buy votes. This effectively divides and conquers us, leaving money in charge of politics. Even the best journalists, politicians, and companies can't always resist it. Those who try lose audience and eventually fail. So he's coming from a political standpoint, but it's actually true. Fear drives us. What we see in the media, what we hear in our cars, where we hear from the neighbor down the street, something drives us and motivates us. In the military, the greatest motivator for a soldier in boot camp is fear. That's why drill sergeants say, will yell at you, because they want to instill in that soldier that you are so afraid that by the time you come out, you're going to immerse and be better than who you are. You could take down the enemy because we have broken you down with that fear. So with that said, let me show you this image and just look at it for a minute. So I went online and I pulled up the 2 words, fear and racism, and this is one of them I found. These are Africans in India. African students fear the racism festering on Indian streets. This is India. This ain't America. Yeah, I don't even need to get into it. Let's look at the guy holding the bag in if you could see it. Look at the guy in the middle. And so I want to move on to images. Look at that. I remember one of my professors in college told me, it wasn't a philosophy class when I was in community college. He says, as human beings, the one thing we gravitate to the most is fear. And he said it's easy for us to gravitate to fear, and it's harder for us to gravitate to peace. Why is that? And the last image I want to show you real quick is this one. All right, let me share this one with you. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
This sums it all up, right? Fear. What we're thinking back here that leads to the bottom of your heart, what we're really thinking about. So now let me open it up. As I always do, we're now going to go into discussion and really get into this. And I want to hear from my panel. Again, you don't have to say it, but if you want to, you can. You know, your first interaction with discrimination and what did that mean to you? Go.
Well, my first interaction, I remember discreetly. I remember exactly what it was. I was in second grade, and I have Latino in me, so I have both, multiple cultures. And it was a Latino young boy. I know his first and last name. I know where he lives today. And he called me the N-word. We were playing basketball, and that was very confusing for me at the time. But it obviously still, even to this day, I'm in my early 40s, and I remember that. That's the first time I remember hearing it or feeling it directly as you are different, you are the other. You know what I mean? That's the first time I felt that. And I was in Long Beach, so it was all types of people, all types of cultures. It was just odd to me. But that was the beginning. I look at that as the beginning, and it was pretty much never stopped. That was the beginning, and then it just continued on different levels as I grew into adolescent, teenage years. It started changing as a man, different neighbor. It hasn't stopped. Let's put it that way. That was the opening of the bottle, and it's just hasn't stopped. But I remember that distinctly the first time.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I don't know if I could say. I mean, I experienced racism a lot indirectly, but like face to face, I don't think I've ever been called out of my name or treated. Well, I've always been. Treated differently. I can see that much because I come from an HR background. I just recognize stuff. I studied law. I was a paralegal doing employment law and racism was just a part of my life. But fortunately for me, and I say fortunately, I grew up in a predominantly Black city, with Black people. So we dealt with racism from the time I was an adolescent, from the time I was a child, because I was in a Black city. So we were taught, our elders, our neighbors, our friends, back in the 60s, and, we were taught to beware of these things. So we grew up being aware of what was going on. So I was able to recognize many different levels of racism in every area, experiencing it, even being in a predominantly Black area. We still experience racism. Because of the things that happened to us, but I think I experienced it less because of, I guess because I was in an area with Black people. I didn't, get to experience that much. And we had other cultures in our neighborhoods and things like that, but they weren't racist against us because they were in a Black area. So it was, they were growing up with us, so they knew us, and they just accepted us as Black people. But it wasn't until I got into the workforce and started working that I noticed that I was being treated differently, and that my, people that looked like me was being treated differently. But because I grew up in that area, I was always defending other people that look like me. So I was always in trouble because I was always standing up for people that look like me, because I was not afraid, and I was confident in my knowledge. When I saw racism, I knew it.